Welcome back to Café Racer Garage. I'm Dan, and in this video I want to show you how you can make a template subframe for your motorcycle. If you are building a motorcycle and you don't have many fabrication skills, or you don't have very many fabrication tools like a welder or a grinder or those sort of things, but you do want to have an idea on how you want to set this thing out so you can sit back and look at it and figure out what you want so you can make a template and then give it to a fabricator. I want to show you how you can do this quite simply with very minimal tools, because it's something that two of my friends right now are building K100s and they are having that same issue. One has passed it already, the other one is going through it and just trying to figure out how to get that nice line, I guess, from the tank all the way through to the seat, because on the K100s they have this little part that kicks up. So kicks up or kicks down, anyway, whatever it is, I want to show you how you can pretty much make yourself a template out of PVC pipe. But before we get started, I just want to mention the absolute shambles of a mess that you can see in the background. I've been working on a side project. This side project isn't motorcycle related, so I haven't shot any videos for it. I wasn't going to share it on the channel. I didn't want to put something that's not motorcycle related on the channel, but there is all this mess that's around the bike. I need to clean that up to get around the bike, and I also need to get to the hardware store to get some PVC to show you how to do this. So first up, clean workshop, and then I'll get some PVC and I'll come back. So for the tools and equipment you'll need, firstly you'll need a saw. This is just a timber saw, nothing fancy. If you have a hacksaw, it'll do the same thing. If it can cut timber or it can cut steel, it'll be able to cut plastic. So for the next thing is obviously your PVC pipe. Try and choose something that's similar to the frame size that you have already. It'll make it a lot easier for the fabricator if it's, you know, as close as it can possibly be. Now, if you're going to join this stuff, depending on how you're going to make your subframe, if you're going to join it, my recommendation is just getting yourself some dowel like this. This is just timber dowel. Try and find something as close to the inside diameter of that as you can. Try and find it a bit bigger if you can't find the exact stuff, because then you can at least sand it down. So you'll probably just need some sandpaper. Now what we're going to do is I'm going to do a bend. I'm going to show you how to do a bend quickly and easily. So to do that bend and without it crushing on the inside or making it look really bad, what we'll do is we'll use some sand. So you need some sand and a funnel. Sand's probably the best bet. Dirt will still work, but sand just doesn't compress as easy as dirt. So that should be perfect for this. I got plenty of sand. I'm like 15 minutes away from the beach, so that will work. And then also optional, just get some end caps to obviously put on the end if you're going to, you know, fill it up with sand. You don't have to do this. You can use something like duct tape, but we're going to heat this pipe up. So just keep in mind that if you have a heat gun, would be awesome. I'm not going to use the heat gun for this. I would prefer to use it, but I'm not going to for demonstration purposes. I'm going to use just an ordinary oven in the kitchen just to show you how to do this stuff. But ultimately, I would probably use this if I could, just because you can really concentrate on certain areas and heat up a certain part more than the other, rather than just heating up the entire piece that you put in the oven, if that makes sense. So you could also use a blowtorch like one of these guys. You've just got to be careful with this because the PVC pipe does burn fairly fast. So if you put a lot of heat in it too quick, you'll end up with just burnt spots everywhere and it'll look terrible. Not that it really matters, but yeah, you just got to be careful when you're using this sort of heat because it will burn. So I'm going to use the CB750 as my demonstration bike. Obviously the subframe on this bike has already been done, but let's say it isn't. Let's say I haven't chopped anything on this bike yet, and I'm going to give the entire bike and a template to the fabricator to obviously do all the work for me. So this is where this is going to come in handy. Let me just show you how to pretty much make this top section, and then we'll go from there. So there's no real actual time frame to know how long to leave it in the oven for. When it gets malleable, you'll know when to take it out. So what I've done here, I've suspended it pretty much at each end. So when it really starts to sag in the middle, that's when I'm going to take it out. That's pretty much my little indicator, I guess. If you've never worked with this PVC pipe before and you've never heated it up, I just want to let you know that if you do have it in the shape that you want it after you've already heated it, if you reheat it, it's going to probably go back to its memory. It's just the way this stuff works. Say for instance, because, you know, if I want to mimic this line here and then, you know, put a kink just here, if I put a bit of heat in this section here, it's going to want to straighten this out. As soon as that heat travels up here, it's going to want to straighten this out and pretty much go back to its memory. Just be mindful of that when you do use it. Try and do all the bending in one go rather than, you know, bending a piece twice. Okay, so once you get it to this point, I guess the next step is trying to figure out how long you want your seat. You've got, you know, I guess if you just want to have a single seat, that's fine. But for a general rule, for a Café Racer, if you're building a Café Racer, try and keep this no longer than the axle. Don't go any further than the axle. It's just a general rule. It doesn't have to be that way. So with a heat gun, if you do have one, this is why a heat gun's probably a little bit better than an oven, because you don't have to heat up the whole area. You can just heat up the section you want to bend. For instance, if I want to put a kink in this to mimic what I've already got here, then I can do that quite easily with a heat gun, as opposed to, you know, being limited to what you can put in an oven. I couldn't put this whole entire thing in an oven. It just wouldn't fit. And if I was to put this hoop back in the oven, like I mentioned before, it'll end up going back to memory and being straight again. Not perfectly straight, but, you know, it won't stay the way it is. So now I guess I'm pretty much going to leave this straight. Just to keep it nice and simple, I'm going to leave this straight for now. And I'm going to work on something. Let's say, for instance, you want to get rid of the shocks, the rear shocks, and you want to do a mono shock, but you want to do something, you know, you want to tie it in and have some side pieces that actually drop down that hold this whole piece up. So I'm going to work on that and show you how to do that, and I'll use the oven once again just to make it super simple and show you how to do something a little bit different to this and how to tie it in and give it to the fabricator. So here's the two side sections now complete. They're not exactly the same, they're not identical, they're pretty damn close, but I mean, you know, it doesn't really matter. If you were to give this to a fabricator, at least then they have something to work with, or even if you're going to give it a go yourself and make this out of steel, at least you know the length that you need, the radius that you can work with. You can even go to the point of actually sticking these on the bike and, you know, tape them in place where they've got to be, and then pretty much paint it all black, and it'll look like a frame. You stand back and just sort of sit back and look at it, and you can kind of get an idea of what it's going to look like if you want to change it or make it shorter. You know, it gives you something to play with. So this whole thing's cost me like less than 10 bucks to do it, and it's an easy way to, you know, make an absolute almost spot on template of what you want and the seat length and all those different angles that you want to get out of this subframe. And it's so simple to do. It literally is something that you can do with basic hand tools. So as you can see, PVC pipe is pretty easy stuff to work with. Hopefully this video was helpful if you're going to build yourself a subframe or you're going to have someone else build it for you. Make yourself a template out of PVC pipe, give it to them. The fabricator would love it because it's so much easier to fabricate something that they can already visualize like this than it is to just try and come up with the idea and you explain it and draw it on a piece of paper. Anyway, I know this video is probably a little bit shorter than my normal production, but I did want to show this video. So that's it. Have an amazing day, and I'll chat with you in the next video.